So this is the camera-handed robot, right?
Camera-hand robot.
What would you call this robot?
Hand cannon.
Hand cam?
Hand cannon.
Hand cannon. Oh, I like that. That's perfect. I'm gonna get close to your hands here.
Sure. My big, beefy, meaty hands. Everybody has 3. I do this in blue first.
Mm-hmm. And then you go back over it.
And then I go over it with ink because the blue shouldn't show up on the scanner.
Shouldn't show up on the scanner.
It shouldn't. It's called a non-repro, non-photo blue.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've had experience with something like that, but I'm sure sometimes if you probably scan something direct, you know, and it might have blue lines on it.
Yeah.
That's stuff that's not supposed to show up on the scanner. Sometimes it does. I don't know. One of the things that I learned, that the Transformers cartoon movie was that there are, like, they had to in the 80s they had to come up with like hundreds of robot designs on the quick, and so what they did was they figured out like 6 different hand types, 6 different arm types, 6 different leg types, and they used that to sort of mix and match. So when I'm designing some robots on the scratch, sometimes I just use the same, couple things and I just mix and match them.
Oh, okay.
And
so it makes the drawing process,
especially if I'm drawing like generic robots,
expedites the process.
Absolutely, especially because like a lot of the robots with coffee gags are just quick gags based on sort of colloquial sayings or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, I can just do this throwaway gag, or it could be like based on what the robot is built to do. So we can figure out what hand cannon is supposed to do.
I love hand cannon.
Hand cannon. But sometimes those are the best. Those are the best characters. Is stuff that just comes out of the blue, or it's just a joke.
With Canon cameras for hands.
Right.
I love it. He'll be my mascot.
Okay. And I draw everything pretty base. Let's see. What's a good? Something that goes on the camera. Maybe he's got to rewind himself. So I'll put one of those things on here.
A flash.
Oh yeah. His chest could be the flash. So we'll just do that, and we'll put like a little thing in here too, so that it ejects. Like those little cube. Remember those cube flashes that phones would come with?
Yeah. Or when he's done shooting, he ejects maybe like a
right.
Like a memory card with photos on it. And he takes some ridiculous amount of photos per second.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the cameras I had was the Sony Mavica. Do you remember that?
The Sony Mavica?
Yeah.
No.
Sony Mavica was a camera. It was basically like this very cheap lens.
Yeah.
And it was hooked up to this like square box, and you put a 3.5 inch floppy disk into it.
In the camera?
Yeah, in the camera. That was its storage unit.
It's like the world's first digital.
It was it must be one of the world's first digital, and I don't know. It's a relic, and I wish I still had it.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. So those blue lines might actually show up on your film, but I noticed that when I do it. So we'll give it a little lens to go around it. Color that in, but we'll do the kind of do the standard thing for each, It's kind of how I just thumb. I don't need rulers. his lenses.
I love it.
Yeah. And I'll come back to finish those in a second here. Let's just get this guy, his face. I have a certain way I do pretty much all of them. You know, a lot of, you'll see people who draw, see the pros and how they draw, and I just kind of willy-nilly create these robot guys.
What do you mean? You see the pros and how they
draw? They'll do their circular.
Like the same. I see. Yeah.
You know.
The foundation.
The foundation, and it's like I make a nose. Once I go from the nose, I know where everything else is at. I'm just this weird guy who draws silly things like that. This is visor. There you go. It's a little bit of a lens on his visor, and then this weird helmet.
He's cool.
Yeah.
He's big.
He's a big guy. He's probably at a wedding, probably yelling at everyone to hold still to make it look natural, interrupting people in their natural conversation, telling them to look natural. And then shushing people away from their camera, you know, like, hey, put your phone away.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna put vents on the side of his helmet. This is part of the detail. I mean, you know, I don't usually color it by hand because I'm not a very good colorist. Hopefully the young lady who painted my cover will be interested in doing more stuff like that.
Yeah.
I can't believe how well that worked out. Sometimes you gotta put line weights in. You just can't draw a line for everything because you have to give it a little bit of depth, especially if you're doing it in black and white. That way it's more three-dimensional. So this is how you rewind the film right here. Because he still takes film, he still takes it. He probably charges a lot when he does weddings, but he still takes it to Walgreens.
Does he?
You know that he does. Cheapskate.
Actually, nowadays it'd be more expensive to do film.
Yeah. I could probably use a ruler right here for a square body, but part of my anti-outsider art is just, you know, making these guys look as goofy as possible.
When you say anti-outsider art,
that's like outsider art or anti-art. You know, I meet a lot of people who like maybe even a certain someone I used to be married to.
Oh, stop it.
No, you tell people like, oh, you know, I'm a cartoonist or something like that in the spare time, or you know, I do this or that. I'm a musician or various other things, and one person remarked like, oh, I thought you said you could draw. And
that's not nice.
Well, they don't know. I mean, it's not so much that it's not nice, or you know, they're expecting like a regular artist, and then they meet me, and I'm just this guy who.
Well, I think it's a genre of art called like lowbrow art, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a whole genre.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not just stuff like this. It's all kinds of stuff. I mean,
yeah.
You could even technically say that what the shows you and I produced a long time ago was lowbrow art, right?
I always said our show was a high energy dance show.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, it's a burlesque show, and then I would go see I actually had to go sit through a burlesque show once, and I was like.
Oh, right.
Pick up the pace, you know.
Like, our shows did have a different energy.
We did like 3 dances by now. We were rowdy as hell, you know. And I'm not a very rowdy person. I'm just like I want the show to move, and that was an important lesson that I learned.
Yeah.
I still had many more lessons to learn, but that was just something that was very important. Was getting the show on the go and. I wouldn't, you know, I mean, it's on my regular blog, the kind of cartooning I do or writing, I always would say it was the very top of the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
You know, something I was very proud of, and I still kind of use that phrase. But with this, I mean, it's just highly caffeinated robots. And I have, like I said, this backstory of this robot who is just this hack cartoonist I can say I'm assisting, who didn't get the money from a certain major movie franchise. And he's incredibly bitter about it, you know.
So he broke off on his own.
Or he had done that a long time ago, and now that these guys are getting some recognition, he's very upset, and so he's taking these other rejects and he's trying to profit off of them. And that's kind of what he does. It's the backstory that I have, you know.
Yeah.
There's this flash cube in the center of the chest. Hopefully that's evident. We'll just draw a little light bulb on there anyway.
Hand cannon.
Hand cannon.
And then when he fires photos off, he can make the old-fashioned sound, like the
right.
really old-fashioned.
Let's explain to kids what that's like, you know. But the people still sell disposable cameras, you know.
They do.
Yeah,
and even cell phone cameras make the same sound
sure.
that old cameras used to make.
Like my dad has a rotary phone lying around the house.
Just lying around the house, or does he use it?
No, no one can't use that now. It won't. I don't think like the tones won't work on a regular phone these days. Just gonna add that line depth to the hand so that the hand looks like it's protruding from the arm. Give his shoulder a little bit of a random shape there. It's like, oh, that's like the armory on his shoulder. You know, a lot of these guys are from a certain transforming war, and so they're covered in like weird armor nudes on their body. Like, why? Obviously, like the stuff that I'm inspired by, obviously, is very detailed work. I have this lying around. These are all the inks. These are not the original pages.
But this is the stuff that you're inspired by.
But you know, yeah. I mean, I like the drawings. I really do.
Yeah.
And they're really cool.
Who's your favorite artist?
I have a lot of them.
Do you have like a top 3?
Well, I cartooning wise, and probably like thematically wise, Peter Bagg, who did a comic called Hate. I don't know like what stuff to reference, but he actually used to work with Robert Crumb.
I love Robert Crumb.
Yeah, well he and I don't know. I'm not like influenced by Robert Crumb. But I'm definitely influenced by Peter Bagg, and his characters. And he actually had a comic called Sweatshop about a crotchety cartoonist. And it didn't last very long. But he also did a thing about the late Murray Wilson, who was Brian Wilson's dad from the Beach Boys. What a control freak that guy was. He did a cartoon called The Murray Wilson Show, which was really funny. It's just like a web short, you know, in that sort of emerging market of web shorts. Evan Dorkin, who he did some animation writing. He wrote like Space Ghost Coast to Coast. He did some DC Superman and Batman Beyond cartoons, but he did Milk and Cheese in the 80s and 90s, and that was one of my favorite like alternative comic books. And I got into comics because of comic strips, because of Berkeley Breathed's Bloom County. I spent so much time drawing Bill the Cat from Bloom County. Over
Did you really?
and over, yeah.
Drawing it over and
just
over.
Just over this cat. Alright. I'm going to do something else. Use marker. I use different pens for different things. I use different pens for my lettering. I no longer type in the lettering, like using any kind of font. It's faster, it's easier, and it's more me. And like I was talking about how like, you said you were an artist, and no, I'm a cartoonist. You know, once people sort of, I don't mind like, especially when I talk about like, why am I not doing sad Batman? Why am I doing sad vigilante? You know, when sad Batman could easily get me more followers or something like that. Or why do I do less stuff based on someone else's work or characters? Why am I doing original characters? I don't mind that someone gets into, you know, once they figure out what I'm about, then they're into it.
Yeah.
You know, that's absolutely, I would rather have that. What's something you would say as a photographer to people?
In regards to
like, hold still, or you know, what's something that bugs you about people when they're not holding still?
Something that bugs me when I'm shooting?
Yeah.
The worst thing I'd say is if I'm shooting an event or like a wedding, and other people are standing right on my shoulder taking pictures of everything I'm taking pictures of.
Okay.
And like their flash interrupts my shot or something, like they're just a little obtrusive.
Yeah.
That bugs me.
Okay. If you could get all 30 of your cousins to stop taking
selfies,
the pics I was hired to do ... And Canon, 2 N's or 1?
1.
Canon. Exclamation point. There you go.
There he is.
Yeah, there's hand Canon.
Say it in his voice. Read it in his voice.
Okay, if you could get all 30 of your cousins to stop taking the pics I was hired to do.
Hand Canon.
Hand Canon.
Fa-chink.
Yeah. Oh, here I put that in there. Like a Sometimes you get a camera that had batteries in it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get a camera that didn't have batteries. The ones that batteries
yeah.
make funny noises.
I love it.
Yeah.
Now what are you gonna do?
I can scan it.
Oh, you're gonna scan it in?
Yeah.
So this is the MO. You usually just kind of do your main shot or your
Pretty
main
much. Yeah.
photo, or I'm sorry, drawing. Scan it in, and then you kind of work on it more on the computer.
Yeah. Oops.